I found this farmhouse checker duvet for $6 and knew it would be perfect for my entryway. Measure your window and cut the duvet using fabric scissors. Next, take an old set of plastic blinds and stretch them out. Then cut the ladder strings, the ones that hang vertically, but be careful not to cut the main pull string. Remove all the original plastic slats. Now, slide just a few slats back onto the vinyl strips, spacing them about 8 inches apart. Apply a mix of fabric glue and hot glue to the back of each slat, then press them onto your fabric. Glue the heavy bottom piece to the end of the shade and let everything set for about 6 hours. Once dry, just hang them up like regular blinds for a stunning custom look.
For today's project, I wanted to surprise my wife and get rid of this boring bathroom. Measured the window, grabbed a 1x6 piece of board that was 4 foot long. Next step was to go ahead and put some stain on it. A lot of people use a brush when they do staining. I like to take a towel or a rag and just wipe it on there. The next step was to put the hardware on the board that would hold it against the wall. Wanted to make sure that the board would be flat and not sticking out like normal hooks or hardware. So this hardware right here, you go ahead and mark it on the back of the board, and what we're going to do is drill it out. That allows the screws in the walls to go flat inside the board, and it holds it up steady. Once you get it drilled, go ahead and get rid of the sawdust and go ahead and install the hardware using the screw that comes with it. All it takes on a board like this is to put 2 at each end. Now, you want to see a good way on how to hang this up and make it level every time? Take a level, put a piece of tape across the top, lay it flat right where your hooks are, and then what you're going to do is measure and mark right at each hook. Once you do that, go ahead and take the level and set it aside, and we'll use it a little bit later. Next, we need to put our hooks up. Now, I went ahead with the black decorative hook, and I measure and mark equal distance between each hook by dividing the board. These marks right here are where you're going to put the hooks, and we want to make sure that we pre-drill each one of these holes. I'm a big fan of pre-drilling. It keeps the boards from splitting. So once you get those first holes pre-drilled, go ahead and put the hook up, use the screws provided because they're the same color as the hook, and go ahead and put it on. You're going to do this with each and every hole, and usually these hooks have 2 screws. Make sure you get both of these in. Now remember that level that we had? Put that up against the wall and mark where you marked on the tape. Then you're going to go ahead and put screws in the wall in those 2 sections. This is different though. You don't want the screw going flush against the wall. Make sure it sticks out a little bit. Then take the board and you're going to slip it inside the drill hole that you did right inside the hardware. The amazing thing about this is you're not going to see any screws that go through the board, and look how tight and secure that is. Check one more time for level. The next step is to grab some clip rings. That way there is no sewing or anything, it just clips right onto the curtain. Clip it on, both of them, depending on how you want it, and just hang it over your hook. Now, I went from boring bathroom to curtains that I put up, and then the last step is to go ahead and decorate the rest of the bathroom. Doesn't that look amazing? This took no time at all and it was easy to do. I hope you like the look of this project.
Head to Dollar Tree and pick up 3 glass carafes and twine. Take twine and wrap, tie, and secure around the glass. Tie into a knot to secure. Take an indoor plant and clip parts of the plant off. Add water to the glass bottles and then add clippings to the water. Hang a curtain rod and add more twine or rope from the rod to the twine connected to the bottles. There you have it, a cheap way to create your own easy living window valance to propagate plants. I hope this inspired you to try this DIY decor project in your home.
Grab a wood dowel rod that is 1 1/8 inch in diameter and a set of 2 wood finials. On the end of each of the dowel rods, drill a hole that is centered and about 1 inch deep. Take both the dowel rod and the 2 finials and spray paint them in a color of your choosing. It works best if you spray several light coats for even coverage. Once everything is dry, screw in the finials to the end of the rod to make sure they fit. Now take a couple of simple J-hooks. Take a couple of wrenches and pull so the J-hook opening is just a little bit wider. Now take these J-hooks and screw them into the wall with a drill above a window. You may need to use a screwdriver to tighten them into the wall. To give your room a sense of added height, place the hooks so they are closer to the ceiling rather than closer to the window. With one finial removed from the dowel rod, thread 2 curtain panels onto the rod and then screw the finial back on. Hang the drapery rod and curtain panels onto the J-hooks in the wall. Depending on the size of your window, you may need to hang 1 or 2 of the curtain tabs on the outside edge of the J-hooks so the curtain looks even across the top of the rod. You now have a classic drapery rod for hanging curtains for just a few dollars and very little invested time.
I have this stationary door that goes out to my patio, and I wanted to do something different with it, so I ran down to the hardware store and picked up some 24-inch long pieces of wood. I measured and marked the wood 1 inch from the end and 1 inch from the side. I knew that my rope was 1/4 inch thick, so I made 5/8 inch large holes so that the rope would slide through easily. Once I had those ready, I went ahead and slid my rope in and tied a knot at the bottom to make sure that the wood would stay securely on top of the knot. It did. I needed my plant shelves to be even on both sides of the rope, so I made a 20-inch measurement and marked it. I knew that that's where I was going to make my next knot and add my next piece of wood. I repeated that process until I had 5 shelves in place. I then secured the rope on the curtain rod that I already had on the door. This allowed me to hold it in place while I worked on the other side, trying to make sure to keep everything even. I made sure everything was straight, and then I started to work my way down using the leftover rope. I worked my way down through the wood and tied a knot so that I could additionally secure it. Once I had everything in place, it was hanging really nicely, but I did notice that some of my plant shelves were not perfectly level. The good thing about this rope is that it was very easy for me to loosen the knot and move it and adjust it so that it could be perfectly in the place where I needed it. Once that was done, I set my plants in place and enjoyed my new floating planter shelves. This project would work great on a window. It doesn't have to be on a door. And it would also look great if you finish out the wood with any paint or stain or decor of your choice. I love the way the light still comes into the room, but I get to highlight some beautiful plants for springtime. I hope this inspires you to create some floating plant shelves of your own. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and see you next time.